I have received hundreds of messages over the last few months from parents that feel drawn to homeschool but don't know where to start and don't feel that they will be an adequate teacher for their kids. So I felt it was time to do a video with some tips on getting started with home education and reassurance for those of you feeling you might not be good enough to teach your kids. I'm just going to start by saying that homeschooling is not recreating school at home. There, I said it. Our first year was a bit of a disaster because I thought I had to replicate the environment of a public school in our home. That was my first big mistake. I thought we had to start at 8:30 a.m. and finish at 3 p.m. Work for a certain time each day and have breaks at certain times, but that just simply isn't true, and it didn't work for us. Eventually, after seeing how miserable it was making not only me but my daughter, I decided something had to change, and that's when I learned school at home is something completely and beautifully different from public school. Which is not to say that public school is any less of a beautiful education, but they are very different. It's something special that offers you and your child or children a beautiful life together, learning alongside each other, day in, day out, in the mundane tasks of taking care of a home, as well as the spontaneous field trips to a castle or the zoo, curling up to read books and play games, trying new recipes together, one-on-one lesson time, with flexibility to close the curriculum book and expand more on a subject through manipulatives and games, the permission to pause and go slow if my child is struggling. 0 deadlines to meet, no bar raised above our heads, a learning environment that is dictated by my children's pace and my own. Now, that all sounds wonderful, and it is, but of course it doesn't come without its hardships. Like absolutely everything in life, there are ups and downs with homeschooling. There are good days and there are bad days, and it requires dedication from both the child and the parent. After all, giving your child the gift of education is one of the biggest gifts you'll ever give them in this life. Now, a question I've received countless times is, am I capable of homeschooling my children? I'm not a teacher and I don't have any qualifications. I mean, it's no wonder we ask ourselves this. 9 times out of 10 when you tell your family, friends, or even strangers in conversation that you're planning to homeschool, they almost always say something along the lines of, "Are you a teacher then?" or "Do you have teaching qualifications?" It's funny because when attending midwife appointments while pregnant with our babies, never once do they ask the question, "Do you have any qualifications to be a mother?" The fact is, homeschooling is just an extension of motherhood. You are their mother. It's from you they learn to walk, talk, play, sing, clap, dance and recite their ABCs. It's from you they learn to wave at the postman, say bye-bye at the checkout and count their favourite toys. Homeschooling is just a continuation of what you spend the first few years of their lives doing. It's true, there are things we might not be great at, and naturally we worry we might not be able to teach those things. But if there's one thing I've taken and held tightly to on this journey of ours, it's this. There's pretty much a book for everything. Don't know much about space or the moon? There's a book for that. Have no idea who invented the telephone? There's a book for that too. Not great at math? There are scripted open and go curriculums that basically teach you what to teach. Most of the time I find myself learning things right alongside my kids, and that is okay. In fact, it's a beautiful thing. So, if you feel yourself drawn to teaching your children at home, like so many of the mums I get messages from, the first thing I want to recommend is finding the homeschool method or style that fits your family, your lifestyle, and the kind of education you want to give your child. In the UK, the law states that you are required to give your child an education suitable to their needs. If you're not in the UK, then I recommend looking up the laws and the requirements for homeschooling in your country or state. So with that said, there are a lot of homeschool methods out there, from Charlotte Mason to Montessori to unschooling and everything in between. A great place to start is to work out which method best fits your family. Personally, we are eclectic homeschoolers, which just means that we pick different aspects of different methods that work for us and mix them into our learning days. We use curriculum as the base of our learning, but we're not afraid to close the books, head outside and learn in nature, or take a day to explore on a field trip, and we count baking as math. If the homeschool method you choose means you want a curriculum, then my next recommendation is to research and find one that you think best suits you and your child. There are a ton of videos on YouTube with insights from fellow homeschool parents who share how they liked or disliked certain curriculums and give you a look inside at the contents and layout. This is so helpful when trying to choose a curriculum for any subject. The next thing I'd like to talk about is resources. It's really easy to think that you need a classroom full of stuff to home educate your child, but I'm here to tell you that you really, really don't. I promise. In fact, all you really, really need to start homeschooling is a curriculum, if you choose to use one, a library card for all the books, and some art supplies like paint, pencils and scissors. Sprinkle that with some patience and grace, and you've got all you need for your first year of learning together at home. You can add in extras anytime down the line, as and when you feel you need them. But starting out, that is really all you need while you're figuring out the routine that works best for you. Speaking of routines, this is my next tip. Give yourselves a lot of grace when finding a homeschool rhythm and routine. It takes time. Sometimes quite a lot of time with a lot of trial and error. And the most important thing you can do is not let that time make you feel like you're failing or falling behind. You're not. Remember, there is no behind in homeschooling. Your pace, their pace. So pick a routine you think might work, write it down, put it into practice, give it time, alter it and tweak it and work it out until you find yourselves in a routine that keeps everyone happy and knowing where they stand. Having a rhythm to your days can be so beneficial for our children as well as ourselves. The last thing I want to encourage you not to do is not to compare your kids with kids that attend public school. Unless you follow the national curriculum to a T, your children won't always be learning the same things public school children will be learning at the same time. You might teach them some things before public school kids learn them, or sometimes later. The important thing to remember is you are giving them a different education. You can't compare the education of a child at home to a child in a public school. They are just two completely different things. Home education provides the opportunities to teach your children life-living skills that they simply wouldn't learn at a public school. They experience life, real-world life, with you and alongside you. And believe me when I say they are learning constantly. Even in the most mundane of days, completing the most mundane of chores and running errands, they are learning how the real world works and where they fit into it, where their place is and where it will be as they grow. They get to see firsthand what it takes to run a home, watching you keep a house and eventually helping to keep it too. They get to witness the different roles that all play a part in life at home and everywhere else around them. And the best part is, they get to ask all the questions about all the things, and there's no need for them to raise their hand. So, if you're thinking about teaching your child or children at home, but have been anxious or worried like I was, and so many of us are before we start our home learning, life learning journey, I really hope I've encouraged you today to realise that you are more than capable of teaching your child and learning right alongside them. And you really don't need all the things to homeschool.